is my story, and it really happened to me. I was about 8 years old when my family moved into a rambling old homestead in a small country town. This house, for some reason, had many rooms just built on to each other, which mainly remained empty, which I had a lot of fun playing in. The kitchen of this house, you had to actually exit the main house, walk outside, and go into the kitchen, which was like a tiny house of its own. It must have just been the way they built some homesteads back in those days. My grandmother was down visiting, and one night my parents decided to take my grandmother out. I normally shared my bedroom with my sister, who was 18 months older than me, but she was having a sleepover at some friend's house that night. My two older sisters were babysitting me, and they kindly allowed me to sleep in their bedroom that night. When it was time for me to go to bed, I hopped into the single bed that was right underneath the window, and I felt comforted in going off to sleep with the moonlight streaming through the bedroom. I'm not sure how much time passed, but I do remember waking up to the sound of the door creaking open. And the bedroom door really did creak, so it didn't scare me at all. I poked my head above the blankets and saw 3 figures in the doorway, the same size and height as my mum, my dad, and my grandmother. I just automatically assumed they'd come home and were coming into the bedroom to check on us, like they normally did. The 3 figures just seemed to stand there and weren't really moving, weren't saying anything. At this time, a little bit of fear started seeping into me. I looked over at my sister's 2 beds, and they were both in there, sound asleep. I didn't know whether to say anything or not, but for some reason I remained silent. The next thing, like in the blink of an eye, the 3 figures were standing at the foot of my bed. I looked at them. I could not distinguish the vacant faces, but I still thought, this is my mum, my dad, and my grandmother coming to check on us. For some reason, I noticed the 2 ladies, which I took to be the mother and the grandmother, had dresses on that reached down to the floor, and that's not the way my mother or my grandmother dressed back in that day. The fear was really building in me now. I still didn't know whether to speak out to my sisters to try and wake them up. I laid there, starting to shake, starting to sweat, and did not know what to do. The next thing, I heard the male voice say something in a soft, whispering tone, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. The middle figure, which I took to be my mother, remained silent, but the very small, petite, tiny woman, who looked exactly like my grandmother, because that is the body type that she had. As soon as the male figure had whispered something, she said, very softly, "Don't wake her up. Don't wake her up." And I remember that so clearly to this day. Those were the exact words that she whispered back to the male figure. They still stood at the end of my bed, and by this time I really was paralysed with fear. I know the true meaning of being paralysed with fear. I'm taking a short breath there because the memories are flooding back in. The next thing I know, the 3 figures had disappeared. They had just literally disappeared. I did not see them walk back towards the door. They didn't go anywhere near my sister's beds. They were just gone. I laid there. I did not know what to do. I was 8 years old. I must have dozed off, or time had just passed, because then I remember I saw the headlights of a car coming down the driveway. Not long after that, I heard the front door open and voices in the lounge room. My sister then woke up and said, "I think Mum and Dad are home." And I said to her, no, my mum and dad and grandmother were just in here checking on us. My sister looked at me and said, you must be dreaming. I said, no, I've been awake the whole time. Well, she really didn't take a lot of notice of me. I suppose she wouldn't, me being 8 years old. She probably thought I was dreaming, making it up, telling a story, I don't know. She got out of bed to go and see my mum and dad. I followed her, and the three of them were in the kitchen. Neither my mother nor my grandmother had long dresses on at all. Normal clothing they had on. I said to them, did you come home earlier and come into the bedroom to check on us? My father replied, no, we got held up with a detour. There was a car accident. So that's what took us a little longer to get home. I didn't know what to say. I didn't bother to tell them what had just happened because my sister had already said that she didn't believe me. I went back off to bed. I was still afraid, but I didn't see the figures come back again. It was some many months later that I found out that the car accident that had occurred that night, a mother, a father and a grandmother had lost their lives. And it also turned out that the parents killed in that car accident owned the house that we lived in at that time. They had one little girl, and apparently they always went into the bedroom to check on their daughter. So in my mind, I know, even though I've never had it confirmed, I know that the parents and the grandmother came home one last time to say goodnight to their little girl.